So this is the Carlsbro Cobra 90PA. It's an England-made 4-input channel power mixer with a 90-watt mono amplifier and a built-in spring reverb. So other than lacking its outer casing, there seems to be no sound coming from any of the input channels. Although, if you turn on the reverb, you can hear the reverb of the signal, but not the direct signal itself. So before firing up the test equipment, we will take a look at the schematic to see if we can get an overview of the circuit design and maybe home in on what part of the circuit that might be faulty. So this is the schematic for the Cobra 490PA. This was the closest I could find, but it's really similar to the 90PA. There are just some minor differences. Let's get a quick overview of the schematic before we go into detail. So these are the preamplifier stages of the 4 input channels. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So they are identical except for the 4th one, which has a tape input as well. Here we have the main mixer and master control circuit. And here we have the reverb circuit. And finally we have the power amplifier circuit. So let's take a look at the preamplifier circuit. So here we have the op amp that's doing the actual amplification in the preamplifier stage. So depending on you choose the high C input or low C input, you will get different amplification. If you use the high C input, you will get 20 dB gain. If you use the low C, you will get 40 dB. So after the amplification, the signal goes to the bass control circuit, and where this potentiometer controls the bass. And it's basically just a first order shelf filter for low frequencies. Then we have the treble, which is also a passive first order shelf filter. And then finally we have the gain control, which is essentially just a voltage divider using a potentiometer. So after the preamplifier circuit of each stage, the signals of the 4 channels are mixed together through these 10k ohm resistors, and it's mixed into this main mixer circuit. So after the signal have been mixed together, it is sent to what is called the FX loop. And here you have the ability to add external effects if you want. And if you decide to do so, you extract the signal from the send and you return it to the return. But if you don't plug anything in at all, the switch of the connector will remain closed and it will just loop back in the connector and go back without any external effects. So we can see that after the FX loop, the signal is returned either through this 22k ohm resistor or this 22k ohm resistor, depending on whether you used an external effect or not. This is also where you mix it together with the reverb. You then have the ability to set the presence control and the master volume. The signal is then sent to the power amplifier circuit. And since this seems to be working just fine, I'm not going into detail on this. So after the preamplifiers of the input channels, except just sending the signal to the master mixer here, you can also choose to add reverb on each channel. And you're doing that with this switch. And what's happening then is that you're sending the channel both to the master mixer and to the reverb circuit. But since the reverb circuit seems to be working, we're not going to go into detail on how that works either. We can see that the output of the reverb circuit is here. It goes up here. And with this potentiometer here, you set how much reverb you want mixed into the signal. And here it's mixed together with the direct signal. So, since we know that all the channels work with the reverb, and it's only the direct signal that is not getting through, the conclusion is that the error is somewhere in the main mixer, or it could also be that the switch in the send connector is eroded and therefore the signal is not getting through when it's closed. So since this is the easiest thing to check, we will start with checking this and then we will go back to this if the connector seems fine. So we will check if the switch is closed when there's nothing plugged in. And apparently it's not. Let's look at the switches of the input connectors and see that they work. And they do. This makes sense since these connectors are probably more actively used so that the corrosion wears off. So now I will connect a signal generator to one of the input channels. And I will connect the oscilloscope to the output. Now if the fault is only due to corrosion, it should be solved by looping the send and return with a patch cable. And it is. So probably all we have to do is clean it. So maybe in some way this shows how much effort you can save by just taking a look at the schematic before you get your test equipment. Although you could of course argue that I should have tested such a classic problem like erosion right away before bothering with the circuit diagram. So this could barely classify as a repair. I basically just cleaned it. So why is there repair in the title? Well, during testing the reverb circuit blew out, so it seems like we have to do some actual repair as well. So since the reverb blew out, we will have to do some actual signal searching here. So my plan is to take a look at the output of these 4 op-amps. So these are the 2 ICs we'll be taking a look at. They are both TL072s and contain 2 operational amplifiers each. So this one contains the first 2. So this is the input signal. And then the first output of the first operational amplifier. We have signal there. Second output. We have signal there as well. Third output. We have a signal there as well. And for the fourth output, there's no signal, but the voltage has gone to rail, plus 15 volts. We've seen that there's an output signal here, 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 but not here. Here the signal goes to positive rail, so 15 volts. I did some measurement on the surrounding components and they all seem fine, so I'm guessing that this op-amp is eternally shorted. So let's switch this out and see if we can get this thing working. Let's connect the signal generator and look at the output of the fourth op-amp again. Now we have an output. It should be working. Let's test it out.